And this one's take a look at doing basic absolute value of x transformation. So I'm going to y1 equals here absolute value of x. So first, I'm going to transform this into a curve that looks like this. It's going to be the last curve that looks like this. It's going to be -2 and then x minus 1. I'm going to go stage by stage here so we really understand what's happening at each point. So first, let's begin by just doing the absolute value of x. We need that parent curve for reference. So when we do the rest of it, it will make sense. The basic parent curve looks like a V, and usually we have some basic points on that curve. So one of these points is 0, 0. The other one is 1, 1. And the last one is often -1, 1. To generate these points, remember, like for example, you take the absolute value of 0, which is 0. That there is your x. The output is y, so that gives a point, 0, 0. Okay, then you do like -1. Absolute value gives an output of 1. Remember, that there is your x, and that there is your y. So you have the point -1, 1. Let's do one more. Absolute value of 1, that gives an output of 1. Again, that is your x, and that there is your y. So that's another point, 1, 1. With the last one, be careful, right? Because you've got a 1. So I'm going to write it like the European style, so it's clear it's a 1 between the absolute value bars. That's how you generate your basic points. Then after that, I'm going to apply the first transformation. y2 will be equal first to x minus, and be very careful. When it says -1, you might be tempted to subtract 1 because it says minus. That is not correct. I deliberately am separating the 1 from the minus. You really should strive, I'm going to put this kind of super thin in here, to see that 1 as a positive 1. You want to do it that way because then after that, you'll be able to do the transformation and understand the transformation correctly. It doesn't mean subtract 1. It means here, add 1. The very opposite of what you think. Add 1 to each x-coordinate. So I'm going to draw my graph. And remember what the transformation says. The transformation says add 1 to each x-coordinate. It also means do not change the y-coordinate. It means both of those things. So if I take my basic -1, 1, -1, 1 over here, and I'm going to transform it, so now it looks like this. And I'm going to use some color coding here because I want to make sure I understand everything. So I'm taking this -1, 1 from the basic parent graph, and I'm going to transform it into a new point. That new point will look like this. And I do that by doing -1 plus 1. You see that? I'm adding 1 to the x-coordinate. The y-coordinate is not changed. It's still 1. So it ends up being with this new point that looks like this, 0, 1. And I mark it up here on the graph. This is the new point, 0, 1. All right, let's go back to green. So then again, I'm taking this point 0, 0, and I'm transforming this according to the basic thing told me. So I'm going to write the following here, 0 plus 1. I'm adding 1 to the x. I'm copying the y at 0, not changing. That gives this new point 1, 0. So I mark that right here, 1, 0. And then let's do the third point. This is done on a point-by-point basis. Usually 3 points will do the job. So 1, 1, and I transform that. And again, I transform that by making this 1 plus 1. So I'm adding 1 to the x, but I'm just copying the y. I simplify. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then I copy the 1. So I end up with 2, 1. And I mark that about over here. So that's 2, 1. So now this is the curve at this stage, okay? Just like that. Just remember the line segments have to be straight. And let's apply now the last transformation. So I'm going to call this y3 will be equal to this. -2 times x minus 1. This is done in sequence, which means when you do the next transformation, you got to recognize the piece that does it. That's the -2 multiplying right here. Okay, the -2 will be the next transformation. That changes the y-coordinate, but it doesn't affect the x-coordinate. So the transformations are done either to the x or the y-coordinates, and that's it. I'm taking the following. I'm taking the point 0, 1 from the last stage, and I'm transforming it so that it will look like this as an example. And let me just grab a different color. So I'm copying the x, and I'm doing -2 times 1. You see, I'm modifying only the y-coordinate. So when I do this, I have 0, -2. And then I have to be very careful about the way I draw my axes here, because these points will be flipped over down below the x-axis. So when you draw this, make sure you kind of account for that. This is x, and this is y now, like that. So mark that point, 0, -2. I say that's about here. That's good enough. Then you take your next point. So that's, again, the point from the last stage, which was 1, 0, and you transform that. When I apply that transformation, that's going to give me I copy the x, that doesn't change, so that's 1. But then you got to do negative 2 times 0. So that's negative 2 times 0 over here. So that's going to give me 1 comma 0 still. That doesn't change, so you mark it right here. So that's 1 comma 0. The previous point over here was 0 comma negative 2. Let's do the last transformation here. So let me go back to the right color. So that would be there, the following. You're taking the point 2 comma 1. And again, you're applying the transformation. So when you carry that stage out, it looks like this. You're going to end up with 2. You leave the x unchanged, and then you do negative 2 times the 1. And that gives you the new point 2 comma negative 2. You mark that point in this position roughly. That's pretty good. And then you just kind of, extend the graph. So it goes this way and then also goes this way. Mark up that basic point 2 comma negative 2. And that is it. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like. I hope it's been helpful. I'll see you in another video.